show a fabulous musician and musical director and someone that Janet fans know everywhere. Rex Salas, thank you so much for joining us.
Yay!
You're welcome. How you doing?
We are so excited to have you, and I feel so honored because this is the first time that you and Tina, as we're recording this, have actually like seen each other in about like 20 years, right, T?
Yes.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. So we have so many things to get to. I will start though, Rex, just by asking, just so that the fans kind of get a barometer of where you started. How did your music career kick off, and what do you consider your big break?
It kicked off when I was about 17. I was auditioning for Patti Austin and Quincy Jones, and I made an audition. That was my very first audition that I made, and from then on, I just got a taste of the music industry from playing in local bands and stuff. And then when I got through that, I would just go tour to tour to tour until I started giving people songs that I wrote and ended up being a producer also. So that's how it started.
That's crazy.
Now, how did you get approached to, well, actually, I'm going to start by the next one will be, how did you and Tina actually meet? Was it during the Janet tour or was it before that?
Oh, it was the Rhythm Nation.
Yeah. We go way back.
Okay. So tell us how that started. How did we meet on Rhythm Nation?
Well, I think most of the fans know my story. Obviously, I auditioned for the video, and originally the tour was just supposed to be the four boys, right? Terry, Anthony, Lavelle, and Art. And then while Karen and I, we would do, Janet likes to work out and do dance class kind of as her workout. And we were working with her and just kind of playing along. And Renee came in one day. They would always talk about the tour in front of us, kind of like we were included. I'm like, oh, that's nice. Like they weren't secret, whisper, or we had to go in another room. And then the next thing he knew, I'm like, Karen and I were confused. We're like, what? Why does he keep talking to us like that? And then he looked at Jen and he goes, you didn't tell him. I'm like, shut up, Renee. Because he was always messing with us, always being a smart aleck. And he's like, no, for real. We want you guys to come on the tour. And that was like in a random rehearsal, like just crazy. And, I literally, I didn't tell my parents, I didn't tell anybody for like 2 months because I thought he was joking. I thought he was just being mean and Janet was going along with it. So like, I don't think I told anyone until right before we were getting ready to start. And I don't know when you and I met, Rex, probably, I'm thinking not until you guys were in rehearsal, right?
Yeah, rehearsal. Pretty much the first time I'd seen you.
So how did you come on board? Because I know that for Rhythm Nation, it was Chucky Booker who was the musical director, and you played, right? Yeah,
what happened with me, I actually met Janet in the studio. I was working with Leon Silvers.
Oh.
He was working with Foster at the time. So this was way back. Or actually, God, even before that, I was in a group called Tease back in the days. And yeah, I met her first at a little one-stop promotional thing. That was the first time I met her because she was walking in, and I actually stopped her to take a picture with her. And I said, will you take a picture? And her guard was pulling her out and wouldn't let her. And she goes, stop. And then she came back, took a picture with me. That was the first time. And then the next time I met her was in the studio when I was with Leon. She was with Foster, and we were both going for a soda at the machine, and she couldn't get a soda out. And I kicked the machine, and the soda came out. And she says, oh, thanks, and she introduced herself. I'm Janet, And I said, yeah, my name's Rex. And I asked her, were you in with Foster? And she said, yeah, I'm over here with Leon. And that was the first time. But really, if it weren't for Chucky kind of putting it together, because Chucky got called to do the Rhythm Nation tour, who, excellent. He's always been like, he was my best friend. He was like, we both did so much together musically. He kind of came up in the industry. And Chucky had gotten the Rhythm Nation tour.
Okay.
And he didn't tell me, but he knew, like I had been doing a lot of tours previous to that. And Chucky wanted the best for her because she was like, you know, I really want this. She had Teddy Riley in mind. She had a guy named Brian Loren to do her tour, and she ended up picking Chucky. And it was one day he asked me to go to a party at Vertigo's in LA.
Right.
And I went with him, and he was like, I got to tell you something when we get there. So we go there, and there's this big Rhythm Nation party, or it was actually, I don't know what it was, but it was Janet and all these celebrities in there and everything. And I'm like, what am I doing here? And I just enjoyed myself. And then when we were leaving, he tells me, hey, I got the musical director position, and I want you to assist me with the tour. So I said, oh, sure, you know, definitely. And that's how, that's actually how I met, you know, started really working with her. Yeah.
That is so cool.
That's an amazing, that's so awesome. I did not know that's how you started with her, Rex. So that's like super amazing. And so talk to us a little bit about just the Rhythm Nation tour, like being on that tour and you know, what it was like, and you know, working with the dancers too, even though I know like both of you at that point were not management positions, if you will, but what was that like?
We were just little players, right? Like, you go, Rex.
Well, you know, all I remember was, you know, Renee was really nervous about it because he wanted it to be spectacular.
Right.
And Janet was kind of learning, just waiting around, listening and learning from people. And everybody really played a big role with her. I mean, Tina was great. Even Chucky, they kind of just held her hand to try to get, you know, comfortable with really her live performing, because a lot of people don't know she's kind of shy. She's shy, but when she's on the stage, she's a different person.
Right.
But that shyness really comes out, and it's just I feel it's a fear that she doesn't feel like, oh, you know, I'm you know, I don't know what it is. It's almost like a fear that I'm not going to put out. Like,
right. Well,
yeah.
then because she was still, you know, that was like Rhythm Nation just really blew up for her. So, I mean, she still has a shyness about her now, but not anything compared to when we started.
Yeah, back then. Yeah. And that was the thing too. I know with her singing, she was really, you know, conscious. She would actually be afraid, you know, to get on that mic, and we had to get her, you know, so she can belch, and because this band was loud, so we had to get her up there. But one thing that Luther Vandross told her, who's a good friend of hers, he told her that she can sing. He was telling her, you know, quit worrying about it. You can sing. And I used to tell her, you know, you just don't realize that you're so much better than you think, you know. And I was working with her one-on-one because I was helping her with a lot of the vocals in the arrangements that Chucky would make. Chucky would make an arrangement, and then I'd be on the side trying to help her to, you know, figure out how she should sing this, or how, you know, she wanted to approach this. And she always wanted to make it just a little bit different than the record. So that was the challenge, you know. And then going to Tina and then figuring out how she can dance to that vocal, which is amazing to me for singers that can really dance, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
so
amazing.
that I mean, I would see it in Michael, and you could just tell that those genes were right there. I mean, she had those same genes, because I was like, wow, it's like effortless. And I've worked with artists where it's like they have to stop and sing, and then they'll do a little move, and then they'll, you know, and it's tough.
Yeah.
That's fabulous. Now, when you guys were on the tour, did you find over time, like on the Rhythm Nation tour, that she started to come into her own, Rex? Like, because I know you mentioned she was like extremely shy, and we know this too, like you've said that before. Did she really start to come into her own as the tour was going on?
Yeah. And you know what? I really feel it was the things that were bad that were happening that made her come into her own. Like if a pyro would go off on the wrong time, or something like
when
we had a black cat come out.
Hey.
They were doing black cat, and there was a black cat that came out, and she would get in the cage with the cat to get used to it, because there would be a time where they'd put her in with the cage, and the cat would disappear and it'd be Janet. So she had to get used to that cat so it wouldn't bite her, you know. So she got in that cage. But one time they were dancing around the cat, because they spin it around and it started peeing all over the stage.
It was
the dancers were sliding all over the place. It was hilarious.
And see, Rex is back there behind keyboard, so he has the front row seat, and we're all like, that cat didn't last very long, trust me. And it was a beautiful, what was it? Was it a panther?
Yeah, it was a black panther.
Yeah, we had it for like, I don't really remember rehearsing with it, but you know, it was a magic trick where she got in one side, but the cat was really on the other, and then they threw something over it, spun the cage, and then the cat was gone, and there was Janet. But I swear it couldn't have been more than 2 or 3 shows before that cat started all over the stage.
It was gone.
Yeah, thank you. We have your picture and resume. You are cut.
That's so funny, because as fans, I had heard about the cat, but I didn't know it was a staple that was supposed to be there throughout the tour. So okay.
Yeah, it didn't make the cut.
Okay. Is there anything else on the Rhythm Nation tour, Rex, that you thought, that stuck out to you as like, and even like you said, she was a better vocalist than she thought she was. And how do you think that, and I know she'd been performing, with her family since she was like 7 years old in Vegas or whatever, but did that level even start to hit its stride on that Rhythm Nation tour?
Yeah. With Janet, once she feels the group around her is her family, and they were close, then she would start to open up, she would really get comfortable. And it was nice to see when she got in that mode, because a lot of times she would just kind of lay back and watch and observe. But then once that kicked in, she just turned into another person. And I love to watch her grow from that time, to even now,
Yeah.
Can you guys actually speak to, because again, you're both on the Rhythm Nation tour, you're both on the Janet tour, and obviously had bigger roles at that point, musical director, and you're choreographing and creative directing, T. And then Velvet Rope. Over that arc of time, like, Rex, what would you say that you noticed the most about her as a performer and as a vocalist, and even as a boss, because of that arc, and she was just the it girl of the 90s for so many people?
I noticed her confidence level, as far as the way she wanted to put the shows together. After Rhythm Nation, going into Janet tour, although it was a whole different crew, because we weren't even hired. The band was gone after Rhythm Nation. She got new management. It was a whole new band.
Yeah.
So I was going on to my next gig. And actually, Chucky, we all had a big meeting, and Chucky came and told us we were gone. But it wasn't until I got a call from the new road manager, Marty Hom, and he calls me and he tells me, "Hey, can you come down to Janet's rehearsal?" I go, "What for?" And he just said, "Just come down. She just wants you to hang out." And I didn't know what for. And I went down, and I remember just sitting on an amble case, watching everybody, and saying hi to people that I remember, I remember seeing. And I really didn't talk to her until she finally came over and just told me, I just want you around here, just to kind of see what's going on. She just felt comfortable with having somebody from the last unit being around from the band, you know, just to, you know, find that comfort zone again, because it was a whole new band, whole new crew, you know, everybody was new except for the dancers. You know, Tina, she was always comfortable around Tina.
But the
Yeah.
dancers were all new too, right? Because except, yeah, I was the only one for the nation.
Because Lavelle and all them, yeah.
Right. So I think, and maybe Rex, you did know or didn't know, but I know that. So once the old band was gone, and you know, and I just have to say this because I think sometimes fans don't understand that just because dancers are gone or a band is gone, it doesn't mean that they were bad or that there was a falling out. It just means like this is like some people go to the next gig, right? A lot of us go to the next gig. We're not available. Chucky was his own artist, right? So it's like everyone.
Yeah.
Thing, and sometimes it's hard to reel people back in. But for the Janet tour, they actually went a different route, right? You said she had new management. They were going with a different musical director who brought their people in the same way. And after about 5 or 6 weeks, you know, we're rehearsing. It just wasn't the sound she wanted at all. And I think, Rex, that's really why she brought you back, because for working with you guys for so long, she knew that she could go to Rex and get exactly what she wanted, get the sound she wanted, that he understood her and knew how to work with her already. You know, and I think that's a lot of times why Janet keeps somebody kind of from the old tours, like they just understand, and it cuts a lot of time, right? When you're working with someone who gets you. Like when you and Chucky would work together, it's like bam, 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 bam. You have an idea, play this, play that, and then there's a song. Like it just kind of flows, and the same thing happens with choreography. So yeah, they just weren't happy in the direction with the new producer that they had brought on. So I was really happy to see Rex come back. I'm like, yes. And he was in the new title of musical director. So that was fantastic.
Rex, can you talk a little bit about how that you got that gig? Because I know she said that she wanted you to hang around, but then like how quickly did it take for them to say no, like you're the dude now? And then and then also T, I just wanted, before Rex answers, I just want to say as a fan, like I did not know that there was a previous band in place before Rex came with on the Janet tour and took over. Like that's amazing because I did not know that as a fan.
Yeah. Well, one thing about me, because really, I wasn't hired to do the Rhythm Nation. It was Chucky. And the only reason why I had gotten the musical director a position, even with the Rhythm Nation tour, is because Chucky had to leave and go do his next album, or he was going to be dropped by his record company. And I was actually leaving with him because I work on his albums with him. And it was like, we had this big meeting, and Janet was not happy because she loved Chucky. Chucky he did a fantastic job on the Rhythm Nation, and I was like, wow, you know, how are we gonna pick up from here? But you know, you got to just pick up. And what happened was, when I told her I was leaving too, it was like, oh no, you're not, you know. And she said, Chucky, hey, none of you are leaving this unless one of you takes over, you know. And she basically, and Chucky looked at me like, you know, could you please take this over for me? And that's what happened on the Rhythm Nation tour. So I took over, and we didn't have many days, even during the switch. We had one rehearsal, and then we were right into the next leg of the tour, and it was in Europe. Yeah. You know, so it was a tough, and Johnny Gill was getting ready to open, and he had his band all dialed up, and so it was a little challenge. But then coming to Janet, you know, I feel like it was the same thing, because I was ready to go. You know, once Chucky said we're not on, you know, sorry everybody. And like Tina said, it's not because they don't like the band members or anything like that. She just wanted to try something new. She got a new management. You know, she wanted to try someone new, and Patrice Rushen was the person that took over. And I had worked with Patrice before, which was kind of interesting because I did her Forget Me Nots tour when she did that, and that was her biggest tour. So I was already accustomed to working with Patrice, and she's great, but she's a different, you know, she's very very
Tough.
hard on her musicians, and you got to be really skilled. She writes that music out.
Oh, there were charts everywhere, and that was just, and it was such a different vibe, right? So it's like, you guys are just literally like, play this, play that. Okay, yeah, got it. But she can't. And I think it just kind of freaked Renee and Jen out just a little bit because it was it wasn't as raw, I think, as what they want. I mean, Patrice Rushen was amazing, but I think it was just a different sound than what Janet was. Yeah.
It wasn't as loose. I mean, she's coming from Chucky Booker, who anything goes.
Right.
I mean, Chucky was like, let me see how I can tear the song up while it's, and it's already funky. Jimmy Jam, Terry Lewis.
Right.
And we'd worked with them in the studio too back in the day when Leon had signed Jimmy and Terry. So I used to see Jimmy and Terry all the time.
Right.
So being that here we're coming in, taking their music and Janet's music, and Chucky would just find ways of just improving on it. And I was like amazed because he's the master at, I say putting grease on the tracks, and he would just make it so funky that, it was like, wow, this could be another song. It's not even the same song. But
obviously rubbed off on you because that's why she had you back.
Yeah. And we worked together since, early high school. So we knew each other's styles, and we could just, we played together better than any of them out there. I mean, we would always get compliments wherever we went. So right. Yeah, once the Janet tour came, and again, like Tina said, it wasn't that Patrice didn't have it down. She had, the parts were there, everything was great. But I think Janet and Renee just felt as though they missed that looseness, in the music. And I know when you're a dancer, and Tina probably can abide for this, but the dancers, they like that movement in the music, I mean, to sound like the record is one thing, but when you got it, I mean, and I learned it from Michael. Michael would have the speaker so loud that the side feels would hit him so hard that you just have to move because it would shake your body.
Right. Right.
So it was the same thing with music. If it's not, the arrangement isn't just moving somewhere,
right,
then you feel something's missing. I think, because she was listening, she really, like I said, Patrice did a great job. Even when I did her tour in the early days, she had me doing like 10 things I was like one of 2 keyboard players, but I was playing horns, vocals, strings, background. I mean, on 4 keyboard players or 4 keyboards around me.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so I was accustomed to whatever, she had ready. And, she played a part in the starting of it, really getting stuff going. Because, like any tour, once you start it, it's kind of, you can either redo the whole thing or you can take what's there,
right, and
start building on it, and trying to put elements that Chucky would bring in, put elements that I would bring in. And that's when, when I took over, and it wasn't a lot of time. That was the hard part.
Right. Well, and the thing I was going to say is, like, earlier you had asked like how we saw her kind of her growth as an artist. And I really think that, not that she didn't have it during Rhythm Nation, but I don't think she had the confidence to go, this isn't working, boom, let's cut it, let's move, I think that's where she really started to grow as her own artist, her own boss, and really understanding what she needed on stage and what she expected. Because I feel like kind of once that change happened, and we actually made changes with dancers as well. Like there was some people who started with us and didn't go on the tour with us. But I think she was really kind of understanding after doing one tour. And for me, that was my first tour. I mean, Rex had been touring, but for us, it was kind of like, oh, this is how it works. This is what we need. This is how to do it. This is what we want to do. And I think that once you've done it, like the picture's just a lot clearer. And I think, she had plenty of time to watch Michael do, but it's really different when you're in the driver's seat and it's your career and it's your music and you're the one on stage. You really have to figure out what it is you want, which I think it didn't take her long to do. And once she did, then it was like, it was really full steam ahead for her.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. Rex, before you answer this next question, I just want to ask T something. When Patrice was in there, was it more challenging for you to vibe with what she was doing too before Rex came back?
A little bit. And again, I really don't want to sound like we're putting her down or trash. I remember it just having a more, or a less raw feel. And I think that's what Janet was going for, the rawness that I think Rex brought to it, right? That he was talking about the grease, all of that, where I felt like Patrice was such a well learned musician, and her stuff was very clean and very like, I just remember we had a horn section and it was like awesome, but that just wasn't the vibe for us doing like throb, or you know what I mean? Like, do you know what I'm saying? So it's like it's really like sitting with someone going, well, what's better, R&B or jazz or funk? It's like, it's what you're looking for. And so that's really all it was. But it was losing that rawness that I think Janet was looking for. And you don't get that clean sound when you're in a club. It's just not.
So Rex,
Yeah.
when you came and first of all, ask us or tell us how she asked you to actually take on that role. And then did you bring in all the new band members like to be with you on that tour?
What happened, it was funny. Like Tina said, there was a horn section. This was Earth, Wind and Fire's horn
Oh my God.
section. So there was the best in there. And they were friends of mine too. And that's why I felt bad when
They were fantastic.
but again, and I had to explain it again to them, like, even it was funny because Marty Hom, the road manager, he's the one that had to kind of let him go. He kept, Rex, please come with me to tell him, but Patrice had it. She had it down to like Tina said. I mean, it was so well music wise, that sometimes things can be too polished, to a point where, okay, people want to hear like where are you going to go with the record? They have the record at home, and when they're driving to the concert or whatever, they're listening to the record to the concert. When they get to the concert, they want to hear it. They want to hear the 3D version now. Hey, I want to hear this thing with the bass knocking me off my seat. I want to hear parts that I don't hear on the album. So yeah, when it got to a point where Janet was giving it a chance, and then I remember Tina and Janet were in there, and Tina comes walking to me, and she actually came over and just said, hey, give Janet a call later, basically. And I said, okay. And it was just the way she wanted to talk and find out what was going on. And I did. I called and I asked her, what's going on. And she just felt like what we're saying. She just felt like, why isn't my music hitting like, hitting? I go, you hear everything, right? And she goes, yeah, everything's there. But, and this is Janet's, that's that perfectionist of being around the Jackson family too. Michael, her brothers. I mean, you just know what it's not even a school thing. She just knew that from being around all that music, there was another level that it could have been on. And it didn't help that Chucky just killed the first tour, and then I just basically took over for where Chucky had started. So
was like,
it was harder. It was harder for someone when they take over. And I
yeah,
feel like, that's when, like, when I was talking to her, I just told her, you tell me what you want, what you don't like, what you don't want. And she was like, honest. She just said, well, do you think the horns fit? And I told her it was Earth, Wind, and Fire. If you want to change the arrangements, we can make them, we can put some James Brown arrangements or something different. They don't have to be like the record. And she's like, well, I just don't hear the horns in my music. So now I can see the growth. She was starting to feel like, well, we didn't have horns last time and it had this little edge. If that's what you want, then, we'll just, get rid of them. I was trying to keep them because they were friends of mine too. But yeah. And then it was like the pieces had to be changed because there were still some people that didn't like the change, some of the band members that didn't like, the change. They were really thinking that, hey, Patrice is doing a great job. And no one said she wasn't doing a great job. It was like, when you change the musical director, you got to follow suit. And
right.
some of them had a problem, and so that's where, I would get with Janet and ask her, hey, should we? And I've never let anyone go from a tour because I have all the faith in my musicians, but this was the first time and it kind of hurt, but I knew it would be better and I knew who I wanted to bring in. In fact, like at the drum share, we were having trouble. So I told her, she's like, who are you going to get? And I said, I'm going to get Sugarfoot, who plays with your brothers.
Yeah.
And she was like, whoa, how are you going to get him? He's with Madonna. This and that. I go, he's a friend of mine. He'll come down. And we end up getting him in there. And I remember the first shows in the Janet tour, his drums went up and spun around. I mean, they built this whole thing for him. It was amazing. Yeah. And then when the horns left, I told her, it'd be nice to add one more guy. And it was actually, I found out it was her cousin that they didn't never know about. His name is Eric Daniels, and he plays on the Voices show. He's been on there since the beginning. But Eric was like the cleanup man. He's the one that put the grease on and and really added to that. So now we had this unit that was more like the first band in Rhythm Nation. And I knew that okay, and we didn't have much time so I was like really trying to go for it because that first show Jimmy Jam promoted on the Janet tour. So he said, hey Rex, I'm not going to listen to anything. I just want to be surprised when you come out and do my first show. I'm like, oh man, what pressure.
Pressure for sure.
Oh God. And when we did that first Janet tour, and when the drums started spinning around, it was the longest one because I remember, if you remember, Tina, the show was so long because she kept all the songs, So I don't know if we did 2 hours straight.
Yeah, 2 hours.
And that one was a long one. I mean, I was tired. All I remember was getting off the stage.
I can't remember what happened to because it stopped doing that, and it was probably
they took it out. They took it out when Jonathan had left.
Okay,
Jonathan had left for another tour.
Got it.
And we got a new drummer, and then they took the spinner out. I think it was just too much to be carrying around.
Yeah, we had hydraulics. There's all.
Oh wow, it was amazing.
So
and that first show with Jimmy Jam, all I remember is walking down the hallway after we finished, and he picks me up and starts swinging me around like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. My music sounds great. And I was like, oh wow. So that was a compliment, on that tour.
That is amazing. These are all stories that I did not know. So this is like great. This is so good. I'm going to have to actually come back because I know I have to move on to Velvet Rope stuff, but like I'm going to have you guys come back on and talk just about Janet Tour because like this is bananas. So I will move you over to Velvet, but just I guess Rex, like, did you, and I know Tina has always said that she never expects to be asked back for the next project with Janet. Like, you just never know, just, you know, a new
You
direction.
never know.
But how did you feel? Did you think you were going to come back for Velvet or no?
I didn't know. And I was actually shocked. I was shocked. And you know, what was the amazing thing is Renee and Janet called me and told me to come to their house, right? It was before the tour, before everything. And I went to their house and they wanted to talk about the Velvet Rope tour. And I'm like, oh, you're calling me? And I said, wow, you know, being the second call on 2 tours. They said, and Renee was funny. He's like, Rex, you finally got your first call.
Right. I remember that. I remember you saying that, like, not in a way, but kind of like, it's about time. Like, I've been here for one, guys.
I was just laughing. But I just remember going to their house, and this is where you really saw a change again. Janet had everything spelled out. She knew what she wanted for this tour. It was like, you know, not like the previous tours where, you know, she let it kind of get into before she really started putting her input. This one was different. She had it mapped down on paper.
Yep.
It was like a big play to her, you know, hey, this is the play, you know, can you make the music like this? Because Tina will take care of the rest. And, you know, I said, okay. And I like it when it's like that, because now I see what vision they have rather than, you know, you keep testing the waters and trying to see what they like.
Yeah, it was a little bit more settling going into it because we kind of all knew each other. We kind of knew what she wanted, or just the way that Janet worked. And I knew the way Rex worked. So it was a really comfortable feeling just to have that open line of communication with everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Tina would come in, tell me what she wanted, where accents, you know, wherever she wanted hits and things. And it just worked like clockwork. I mean, that probably was the easiest tour I've ever done, but it was like, it turned out so great when you think, you know, with the pressure. I mean, all I remember was working 2 weeks, and then we were out because we didn't have a lot of rehearsal on that either.
Oh, we did.
Well, you guys did. She gave us, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks to rehearse, and then we were out on the road. And what happened the first week, we had another drummer. We had Mary J. Blige's drummer was playing Gerald Hayward, and he actually the guitar player and him got in a car accident and crushed his arm on the dashboard. It was a 9-car pileup at rehearsal. So they called me and said he was in the hospital, and you know, that killed our first week. And then I ended up bringing Little John, who played on the Janet tour, the second half. I called Little John to come back, and Little John came and did the Velvet Rope tour. But yeah, that's why it was real short, because we didn't have a lot of time even to get everything together. And I knew if I called Little John back, he already knew a lot of the material.
Right.
And I think the band was just really, they were just fired up, because it was like, we experienced, you know, everything we can go through the Janet tour. And now pretty much almost the same band was coming back, you know.
See, I didn't realize that, because the way we would always work is like, we would work usually in the same complex, right? So they would get a big sound stage, and the band would be in one room rehearsing, and we'd be in the other room. And it would be awesome because I could just run back and forth, right? And go, Rex, we need an accent on like whatever, right? On one part of the music. He's like, huh? And then they could just do it right there. And he was so quick. Like, there's just something that's so refreshing to know that you don't have to sit there and spell it out. He just go like, huh? And Rex was always chilled. Just chill. Yeah. Okay. What do you want? Okay. And he would just do it, right? And then I'd run back, and then he'd come in sometimes and just watch the dancers. And it was such a great thing when we would first all get together, because you could see them, because dance brings the music to life, right? In a different way. So you could just see all the guys, like they're playing, but they're like, oh, that's cool. Oh wow, ooh, look at what they did. Ooh, they just did something. Ooh. And it's like it brings new life when we get to actually work together. So I don't think I knew that you guys hadn't been working as long as we had, because we were in different spaces.
Yeah, I knew you guys were working a long time because she told me you were way at another studio, and I was like, wow.
I think also for us, because we always do the promo tours, and at that time we would do it without the band, right?
Right.
We were all working months in advance. But yeah, you guys pulled that stuff off together really quick.
Did you guys have meetings like when it was time for tour, like rehearsal? Did you, like Rex and T, did you guys like have a meeting with you and Janet and Renee to discuss like the set list and how it's going to go? And like that T would be like, oh, I need X amount of, extra music to get us off the stage to go do a costume. Like, how does that all work? Cause like, as a fan, like that's so like cool behind the scenes stuff that you don't see when you're just watching the concert, because everything's already so seamless.
Right. I think from what I remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, Rex. So like Rex would be with the band doing their thing, right? And then I'd be with the dancers doing our thing. And then every once in a while, whether it was Janet already prepping Rex, like I need an interlude from this song to this song, just musically, for no other reason than that's just what she wanted. Or there'd be a lot of times where I'd like, my brain would go, there's no way on earth that we're going to get off stage, change, and get back in time. So I would always go to Rex. I'm like, Rex, I need 16 more bars. He's like, of what? I go, just the ending. Like, yeah. And he got it. So it's like anytime I would just explain to him, like, we have to go. Like, remember when we did, it was the end. I think I'm going back to the Janet tour, but it was it was for Velvet Rope. The end of If, we had to go into You. And we had, we had to get our skateboards, we had to get our masks on, we had to get all this stuff. And so they had to do that whole thing where Janet's just out there posing, taking her time, and the band's all waiting. But that all, as you know, was not part of the original song. Mm-hmm. But create that moment so that we could be back there, be like stripping off our clothes, water, putting our masks on, blowing our nose, like, grabbing our skateboards. But that happened with a lot of songs. It would just, I think there were things where Janet knew specifically what she wanted, right? And that was already created. And then there was a lot of things we just had to change simply for entrances and exits. And with our band, I mean, they could vamp forever. I remember a story when we get to it later that you guys did have to vamp forever. I don't know if you remember what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I know on a special, the end song, we would vamp forever on that one. That in. But like Tina said, and a lot when Janet or Tina would want to make things longer, a lot of them we had to do on the fly, and we just kind of would create another music piece, in between.
Sorry. You go ahead.
I just remember just always thinking ahead, trying to say, how can this be more exciting, this new part, because I didn't like to keep everything the same or feel like we're just, going on and on. I just felt as though we got to put something in there that's like, that just changes the music. And that was the challenge, I think. But I mean, they were so easy to work with, and the confidence in knowing, I've even seen Tina, she was real, she had changed back then because she was real like this on this one. I mean, it was different. Velvet Rope, I don't know, it was like the growing up period. We were grown now. And now it was a time to just flex our wings and say, okay, we got this for you, Janet. We know your vision. We know your thing. Tina just went to work. I went to work. I mean, I didn't see Janet. We did the rehearsals without Janet, music-wise. She was in the dance rehearsals.
Right.
The first time we saw her was when we went to Copenhagen, I think. We went to Copenhagen.
Oh, right, because we
the band is rehearsing there. And
right.
someone comes running in and jumps on my back, and it was Janet. Janet jumped on my back, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" And then I just put her down. I told her, "You're crazy," but yeah, and that's when it kind of all started. Then I think everyone knew that, hey, okay, this is a family. Let's make this happen for, you see, this is the most comfortable she's ever felt. And she was going through some things. So it was good to see that she was just trying to get back.
And do you remember thinking of like adding entrances and exits and dance parts? That when I came to you, because we wanted to do an intro to Rhythm Nation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all like shoot. I go to Rex. We're in catering, right? Like this was happening already out on the road. We're in catering. And I'm like, Rex, I don't know how long, like let's say 16 bars, right? Or whatever, 12 bars. He's like, well, what do you need? I go, I just need beats. He's like what? And so I'm like, I'm doing that sound like shoot. And he's like, okay, so what's the rhythm? I'm like, I'll be back. So then I went to the other room and I had to actually think of like what I had to choreograph it. It wasn't choreographed yet. So then all my cheerleading moves came back in my brain. And then I went back to catering and really I was just doing this. This isn't the choreography because I don't remember it, but it was like, and he's like, I'm like, no, I just need, he's like, okay. And then literally I was kind of choreographing it while he's slapping it out on his leg. And I was like, yeah, I think that'll work. And then he went over and we went over to the table with the band and you're like talking and you're just, and literally we're working it out right there in catering. And the next thing I knew they put it together. Yeah. Then it was just kind of little things, but that's how a lot of that stuff comes together.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of sound effects.
And the end of it, right? The whole new check section, it was just like, a lot of it would be us doing it and then them watching going, oh, and he would just instinctively know where to hit an accent. So we'd be like, oh, that was Rex, yeah. So it's really great when you have that kind of collaboration.
Yeah, that chemistry.
Yeah.
It was, we had worked together so long that, like I was saying, that tour, you just really felt like you can do anything. What do you want? What do you need? What do you need? I remember Renee wanting a part for All Right, and they had him and Janet had a whole thing spelled out with a sax player and a zoot suit. I remember that. And they tell me, can you come to the studio because we're going to get a guy to do the voiceover. It was that guy that's he's on Madam Secretary all the time, but yeah, and he did a little voiceover. They were trying to get Edward James Olmos.
That's who.
He couldn't make it.
No, that's
so they got another guy. Yeah.
I thought that's who it was. Yeah.
No, it was another guy. I forgot his name, but he's real popular, Spanish guy. And then we didn't have much time. I don't know if we were already out there. So they wanted me to bring in a sax player, and I know tons of sax players, Gerald Albright, I mean, all the best.
Right.
But we didn't have time to get someone in. So Terry Lawless, who programs the computer, hey, I play saxophone. I said, what? And I just brought him in. I said, okay, Terry, can you at least play this? And he did. Yeah. He did a little nice job on it, and it went great. We recorded it, had the voiceover, and then who came out in the Zuzu was
Tice.
Tice.
Yeah, for that Velvet Rope, it was Tice. And
yeah. So when Tice would go out there, we we had that. That was fun back then.
And so actually it's funny because I rewatched the HBO special, Rex, in getting ready for our interview because I wanted to remember like all the little parts and all that stuff. And so I actually had that question in my head with the saxophone. So that was a recorded piece. Did you fire that in the back? Like who's firing those like sound effects and stuff? Who's firing that?
The computer guy.
Oh, really?
yeah, I mean, it was just so nice that he played sax because no one else played it. And we didn't have time to get somebody in there. You know, I forgot what happened, but yeah,
That's
so that piece just came up.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
it
because
was
that
like,
was a good transition, right? That I think was the transition between Rope Burn and then no, you went into All Right, and then I think Rope Burn happened after that. So okay.
yeah,
But that's crazy. And actually another question too, knowing that the tour is there's so many parts to it, and I assume for the most part that everything always happens in the same way, but I wanted to ask you, Rex, were you constantly, like, for example, when Tina mentioned after the end of If and Janet stood there posing and getting the standing ovation, did those times alter because, you know, like, did you know it was going to be 90 seconds or it was going to be like, were you always needing to watch Janet to be like, okay, hit the next thing now?
oh, I would be surprised because I mean it would be long sometimes, and it'd be short sometimes, but it would usually be long. They loved her. I mean, it was, you know, and I mean, you
Like,
don't see that with a lot of artists, and it makes you teary eyed. And I know Janet was really feeling it too, because once that love comes across the stage, I've seen it with artists. I've been on the side sometimes and just watching artists cry because of the appreciation. But yeah, that timing would always change. I mean, she will always want you to watch her. Janet was really a stickler about keep your eye on me, you know. And I was always, you know, just trying to be the troubleshooter too, because if something, there was so much going on in the Velvet Rope, the
yeah.
screen, you know, the balloons, whatever. And I would always be the one because if I started the song, you know, there was no stopping. So
Right.
if something didn't work, you know, you weren't going to see Janet or something was going to, you know, back in the Rhythm Nation days, it was like Renee would just be, start the bus, let's get out of here. But it wasn't start the bus anymore.
Right. Right.
Yeah, so I was always trying to look around and observe. And it was funny because they kept labeling me as the guy, because I can even hear things that would go wrong in the music while we would play. And I
Right.
would tell the computer guy, hey, mark that. And he'd check it. How did you hear that? You know, I just felt something was funny there, you know.
And one time, thinking of things going wrong, and I think I've told this story before about the one time that the inflatables. I don't know if you remember that. So, you know, I would come out. I would start the whole
Whimsical.
whimsical section. Remember, I was the Grouch, and we were all these characters. And then my job I was just supposed to come out and do my thing and then exit. And then here comes Teresa, and her thing was like she's supposed to look in the curtains and then look back to the audience and then look back at the curtains, and her cue was once the inflatables would go up, that was our cue, that was Rex's cue. Then it was like she would do a move and leave and the curtains would open and life happened with, you know, in Fantasyland. But I knew before I went out that those inflatables were not going up because they're usually halfway blown before I come out. And I was like, oh my God. And I'm dying, but I can't relate that to her because I'm already out. She's in the dressing room. Rex is in back. I can't get to him. But Rex had a little monitor on his keyboard. So he could see what was happening on the other side. He could see me, he could see Teresa, but he was live with the inflatables. So he knew what was going on the whole time, but we couldn't communicate. And so Teresa was just there like killing time, and they were vamping forever. And then finally it was just like, they're not going to happen. And you just see the crew's like, you know, pulling back everything. They're putting the inflatables away and the curtain opens and it's just like, and none of the dancers know what's going on. So we're all walking out and catching eyes for the first time. And we're like, oh my God, what's happening? I don't know what song it was like. Do, 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 do. We're like, no inflatables. What do? We just in place. And we were exhausted from laughing, getting through those numbers. I don't remember what city it was in. And, you know,
Hmm.
the band is watching us trying to pull it out of our butts. Like, what are they going to do? Probably the funniest. I don't know if it was funny for the audience, but for us, it was hysterical.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Rex, did you have any? Because I know T has told stories before, and I think it was on Velvet. Did Shawnette fall off the stage or something? Like something happened. You tripped at one point, but I don't remember which tour that was.
That was the Janet tour.
Okay.
During Rhythm Nation and fell like this all the way across the stage, because I remember Sean Cheeseman back here screaming, laughing hysterically while we're trying to do the drill. I want to say that was because we didn't do Black Cat, right? We didn't do Black Cat in Rhythm Nation.
Yeah, we did. We
But
did it. We did it to the end, close to the end. Sometimes it would be an encore, but it was in the end.
The time that Shawnette fell, oh no, it was the Janet tour, because that's the whole reason I tripped across the stage, was because because she fell in rehearsal that day at sound check, and I didn't have time to re-choreograph it or restage it. So I was literally going, as we're changing and putting, I'm like, okay, Nikki, so you're gonna go here and blah blah blah, you're gonna go there. And so I was trying to give the cue to Nikki, right? As we're marching. And I'm looking at Nikki like, you go there, I'm gonna go there. And I tripped on my own feet doing that. And that's, so that whole thing was definitely on the Janet tour.
Okay. But Rex, like seeing Tina's part of having issues, did you guys ever have like Little John losing a drumstick on the Velvet Rope tour, or like Dave's strings breaking? Like, did you have to deal with any of that stuff?
Well, there was two moments. One in the Janet tour, I know I was playing so hard because I banged the keyboards, and I was on these 6-foot risers, or maybe 8-foot. And I pushed it so hard that all the keyboards went over the stand. There's a video screen. And all I remember was telling the crew, bring the keyboards back up. And I was hoping they worked, but they were bringing them up. And I was telling the other guy to keep playing my parts, while we were up there. That was one of them. Yeah, that happened. And they got them up. And I finished the tour with that, or finished that show with it. And the second embarrassing moment, well, it wasn't embarrassing, but it was when the Velvet Rope screen wouldn't open.
Oh.
Because it was the book, and then it opened, and it opens in the middle, and Janet would come through on Velvet Rope, right?
Yeah, riser.
When she would come right through.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't open. The mechanism wasn't working. So there was at least 10 on each side trying to pull that thing. It was so heavy. They were pulling it for their dear life. And till then, we had to keep music going. And I was telling Janet, are you going to go around? Or are you going to go straight? We were trying to figure out what she was going to do. And
I think she ended up going around because they never got it open.
Yeah, they never got it open. She went around.
Yeah,
but,
that was in Canada.
I was trying to figure out what are we going to do music wise, because she had to get out there by the time she sang. So they would. So I remember that was kind of a little stressful. But she really played it off. She was really mad about that, but there's nothing she could do. Something happened to the motor.
Did that only happen once, or?
Yeah.
Thank God. Never happened again. That was the first one time. And you would think it would have happened. I mean, we used it so much, and we took that. I think we took that stage to Brunei. So, they built another one.
I don't remember, but I don't know if we were able to take the two, because it was two screens.
Right.
That one floated over, but
I think they built. Brunei said they were going to build a identical stage to what we had.
Yeah.
And it was amazing when we got there. They had built that whole thing.
That's crazy.
That was for a
Yeah.
private audience, right? Doing that one off.
Yeah, 100, 200 people. It's just family and friends.
Yeah. Crazy.
That's crazy. That's next level. That's amazing. I wanted to talk a little bit about the HBO special itself. When you guys, did you guys know early on that that was going to be a part of it? And because I know it got filmed in October and you guys had already been on tour for months and months. So I'm sure it was a well-oiled machine by this point, but knowing it was going to be broadcast to TV and all that stuff, was there extra pressure on you guys leading up to that night? Because I think you guys taped 2 nights, right? To have footage for both. I think that's what I heard.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah, we did 2 nights.
I don't know about Rex. I know for us, you know, for me specifically, it's always, God, I hope I don't fall. I really hope I don't fall tonight. Like all nights, let this not be the night that I fall down. Because I'm just clumsy on stage. I'm clumsy anyway, but so I think there was that fear, and then there was just overall excitement, you know, because finally, right, Rhythm Nation, there was no special. The Janitor, there was no special, and then finally we're doing, and HBO, it's huge. So I think there's the normal level of kind of fear and excitement that goes into something like that. We were definitely
For me, the band I wasn't worried about. They were like a well-oiled machine. I was worried, and throughout the tour, I get worried about the sound because I want it perfect for her out there.
right.
To me, the compared to the other previous tours, I didn't feel the sound guy was really pushing it like she would want it. In fact, she would actually tell me, go out there and make sure that you're hearing bass and that you're hearing my music out there. And I would get out there and I would see, you know, maybe we can use some more of this. And then we end up, you know, recording it out there to make sure. She really wanted it to sound good. You know, and I was feeling bad because this guy, although he was great, he was an excellent sound man. It's just he had a different, you know, he had a different take on it than she did. And once you get that, you know, it's hard to really get them locking together, you know. And I just would just say, hey, you know, let's just deal with it right now. And then, like you mentioned, when the HBO show came up, that's the thing I was worried about. I wasn't worried about the band. I was worried about the sound, because if it sounded like this on TV, I was going to be mad, and I know she wouldn't have been happy. So I actually went into the recording truck to talk to the guys in there, and I actually knew the sound man in there. So, you know, it was good to see the sound guy in there, because he's one that's done many tours and I've worked with him before. But, you know, it was going to be his first shot at it too, you know, because not like the guy that had been doing it throughout the tour. So I mentioned to Janet, I said, hey, you know, it'd be nice. Why don't you bring your engineer from the studio, Steve out. And I think he'd do a great job. So they called him, and, you know, he was working with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, and he said, oh, no. And just tell him it's like a little vacation. Him and his wife come on out and just hang out, you know, and you don't have to do anything. I just want him to just hang out. And he did. He came out. We put him in the truck, and he said, hey, I'm not going to participate. I don't want to step on their toes. Right. So I let him sit back in the truck in the back. And this recording engineer was there, recording from the mobile truck. And I said, hey, you know, Steve, this is so-and-so. And I introduced him. And then I left to go do my job, get the sound check, everything ready. And by the time I went back into the truck, they had been talking, and Steve was sitting next to him, helping him.
That's great.
I just felt like, wow, this is going to be, that's when I felt really good. I said, this is going to be something special. And then Jimmy Jam comes in, who was like even the third piece. And I said, now I'm not worried. You got the three, you know,
That's awesome.
you got the album there. So I knew that this was gonna be great. And it was funny, after we finished sound check, I came in and they said, Rex, this sounds great. This is gonna be awesome, but we need you to help us with, her sound, because, it's not like the record, where do you want her louder? Where do you want her softer? Da, da, da. I go, I'll give you all the cues, right? So 2 hours before the concert, HBO concert, I sat in there just telling, make her louder here. I went through each song and
Wow.
just mapped it out for them. So it would be, right where she wanted it. And yeah.
I had no idea.
It was a lot of process. I mean, that's the biggest thing I remember, and being worried. But then after it was over, I was like, I don't think I was even eating. I was starving myself because I was worried about that sound.
When you were on stage, Rex, because I've asked this of Tina before, and I think she even came up with this on her own. Like, she said, especially during rehearsals and stuff, that it was challenging to be a dancer and be the choreographer and the creative director trying to do that. Was it challenging for you to be a musician in the band and be the musical director?
Not really, because I was used to the guys. A lot of them were my friends from the past too, because we had done other tours. So I always had fun, I didn't try to put pressure on anything, because I know, especially in the HBO concert, whenever I think pressure, it's like playing the keyboard and saying, if I hit that note, that's a bad, I hit it, So I don't even try to, think about what would happen. I just go with it. And that support team, I mean, I was just having fun up there, all the way. And when new things would happen, when Q-Tip came out, because that's the first time he came out.
That was cool, yeah.
That was just shocking, and it was fun, and you just fall right in line. I mean, Tina had it down. She had the dancers going. I mean, it was just fun just being there, watching everything take place.
For that HBO special, did you guys do extra sound check or whatever to make sure? Like, I know Rex, obviously, you just talked about so much about how the sound was going to sound for us watching at home, but like, did you guys spend extra time making sure you guys were ready for that HBO special?
Not with the band. We just did our normal sound check, which I was surprised about. You would think we would have, but we didn't really do extra. We just did what we had to do. And I spent that time in that truck with them. But yeah.
And Kelly, I wanted to touch base, because it's something that I just thought, like, when you asked Rex, like, was it difficult for him to wear the different hats of being musical director? And I think I never even thought of it till now. It's like, for him, he can be in it, and when he hears something, it's like he just has to do a look like, yeah, I heard that. For me, I can't be in it. I have to almost be out in front of it, because I can't now. Granted, I've said this before too. I'd be in the middle of doing something, right, and I could feel like Tice look at me. I'm like, he just messed up. I'm like, okay. But I still wouldn't be able to see it until we saw the tape, right? Mm-hmm. So that's where it kind of differs a little bit, because ours is a visual, and the only way to see it and to judge it is to be outside of it sometimes. So.
No, I totally get that. And I wanted to ask you guys too, because Rex, you've been mentioning a little bit about feeling that the Velvet Rope tour, you guys were like grown now and you were into your roles and all that stuff. As a fan, I know I was fortunate to be able to see 4 of those concerts when you guys were on tour, and I would have seen 40 if I had had the money and the ability to travel along with you guys. But in those 4 concerts, it just felt so special to me, like, as a fan. Like, it literally felt like you guys were in a magic bubble and you just were creating magic for all of us. Like, and I'd seen the Janet tour, which I thought was also amazing. But there was just something extra about Velvet. Did you guys feel that yourselves when you were in it? Did you know that you were like this hurricane with every city you went to, especially, let's say, New York or Los Angeles, where the celebrities were even losing their minds, like watching you guys perform?
I felt it. I mean, I think in I can't speak for Rex, but it probably is the same for him, where it's just kind of like, you know, a lot of times you don't get the chance to work with the same artist, right? You spend all this time learning an artist, learning their songs, putting a show together, and then they're off, and then you're on to the next artist. So being able to be with Janet for 3 tours, and like, I knew Rex's style, Rex knew mine, we both knew Janet, she knew ours. So it's like, it was kind of like this crazy creative team that was also a family, right? And where we could almost go to each other and know that, hey, if I can't figure this out, Rex can. And if Janet has an idea, Tina can help with that. Like, it was like we kind of, and then on top of that, I think that the music was so mature and so special that it gave us kind of like this ground floor of a playground to just, and she had so much trust in us. Like, you know, like, I'm sure for you it was the same, Rex. Like, I never felt restricted, right? It was just like I could go do what I wanted, I could come back in. Now granted, I'm not saying, and just like with music, anything artistic, there's going to be some tweaks and go, yeah, that works, that doesn't. But I never felt this weird, I never felt any constraint. And that's why I was like, when Rex says like Tina had it like this, I was like, that was my baby. Like, I was like, oh, this is the 3rd one. I know what I'm doing now. Like, because I, you know, you kind of come up slowly, and you don't go to school for this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, yeah, you can go to school for lighting and for music and for dance, but for touring and putting this kind of show together, I just think that we got our, you know, I got my feet wet tours before, and I was like, got it, ready to go. Like, I don't know. Is that how you felt, Rex?
You know what, Kelly? What was really nice? I mean, I've seen in other tours with big artists, but with Janet, it was so different because like there'd be times like in the show, like when we did Again, you know, the other keyboard player played Again on one of the tours. And I would go to the back. It was time for the band to take a break. And when I went to the back one time, Elton John and George Michael were in the green room, you know? And it's like, you know, there's not even any time to be nervous or nothing. You're just like, okay, how you guys doing? You know, and then you have to go back on stage and finish the show. Or, you know, Tom Cruise would be there hanging out with Nicole Kidman and it would just crack me up, and they would be like in such awe, you know. So I had gotten to a point where, wow, you know, this is just, you got to really put out because of the fact that these people are really into it. I mean, I remember running into Michael Douglas in the back one time. Yeah. And he was like, I'm like, what are you doing here? And he was like, hey, I'm starting a record company. And I'm like, that's what he told me. But you would just meet people. Kobe Bryant came one time, and he came up to me and he actually told me he played keyboards, and hey, he asked me if I get nervous out there. You know, I said, you get nervous on the basketball court? And he goes, hey, you know.
I remember Tom Cruise when you just now, I'd forgotten all about it, but I remember he was dancing in the aisles, like out in the house, like kind of like he did on Oprah, right? When you jumped.
Yeah.
He was full out dancing in the aisle. That I totally forgot about that.
Oh my gosh. I mean, the one person that I guess shocked everybody, and you probably remember, Tina, is when Michael came out. Michael came out.
I remember him in back because I remember I didn't know I worked with him, but that was like only my 2nd time seeing him. I just forgot how tall he was. I was like,
yeah,
hi.
Yeah, about at least 6'1". He was standing, but the funny thing is everybody was in a big long line waiting to meet him. Yeah. The band, the dancers, everybody.
We're like, fine.
Shannon was going to introduce him.
Yeah,
on the promised to introduce him.
On the way to stage, we're just literally standing there, like, oh yeah, like, and then just like, thank you, and then off to stage, thank you. It was crazy.
Yeah, so that'll let you grow up fast. I mean, that'll just let you know that you're here for a reason, you know, and just do your job, you know, and do it right. And the HBO special, you know, like I said, we didn't done it enough that we were ready for that. You know, I was pretty comfortable. It was nice in New York too at that time. So
Rex, what is your, and T, I don't think I've ever asked you this, but Rex, what is your favorite part of the Velvet Rope tour? Like meaning like what song do you love playing, or what scene did you like the most, or medley, or, you know, and what was the funnest song for you to play as a musician?
wow, they were all fun. I was like a fan just playing up there too. I mean, I loved when we did You. I loved the choreography and the look of You and just the way it felt. And we actually threw in Go Deep later on.
Yeah.
So I like that because it was kind of a change. We didn't do it until I think it started picking up on radio, and we put it in. And I love that when we used to do that. All the old stuff was great. I mean, I love the whole thing, the way it was just, I mean, you wouldn't think that it was put together so quickly because it seemed like there was just so much going on. But, you know, everybody did their work. And I guess it was just looking at it piece for piece for piece, because if you took it in a whole, it'll blow your mind, you know, saying, oh, this is what needs to be done. But I think that the fact that we were just doing one thing at a time, okay, let's make this piece good. The whimsical set has to look nice. You know, the music has to be there. Choreography has to be there. And each song was just really given their attention needed. And it made Janet feel okay, you know, and she was a stickler about that. She wanted to make sure she would be there late nights. I remember looking at the stage, seeing if things were right. You know, I'm like, what are you doing up? You know, wait, late at night, whatever.
Yeah, because these always up late. I don't know if I have. I love doing You, but I have said this to you before, Kelly, that one of the kind of special things about working with Janet is that you never have that feeling of, you know, here we go with this song, or here we go with that. Like, you just get excited for every song. I think for me on the Janet tour, my favorite was doing Pleasure Principle, because I've always loved that song. And, you know, Barry, it was just her in the video. And so that was kind of like the one time that I got, and I just always loved that song no matter what. But I would say You also in Velvet Rope was fun because, again, I knew that her fans had seen nothing like that from us. So that was kind of a fun one to do.
I saw an article and I read part of it that was just out because everybody's obviously celebrating the 25th anniversary of the Velvet Rope album being released, which is still crazy to me that it's been 25 years. But Pitchfork actually put this, like, the title of the article was like, Velvet Rope was before its time and it's still relevant now. Like, do you feel that way, Rex? And T, I'll have you answer that too. Like, because it's still so relevant and it still sounds timely today. Like, nothing sounds dated. Like, what do you think, Rex?
You know, I get that from a lot of musicians. I mean, a lot of people tell me that was their favorite concert, and you know, and I'm honored just to work with, you know, everybody who was involved. But when you get that kind of those accolades, you know, you really know, okay, yeah, it really hit a spot with everyone. And musicians are picky, so when they say it's their favorite, Kevin Eubanks told me that from Jay Leno when I did a show over there, and he told me that, hey, you did that. I loved it because I was working with him with something, and then he said, you know, when we have stuff over here, I'm going to call you, and he would call me. He would call me to bring musicians in. I mean, just off of that. So, yeah, I think it was before its time. I think that people weren't expecting that, weren't ready for that. And I think one thing, because Janet always held out, you know, she didn't want to do a special until it was time. Right. And that's what made the excitement even more, because, you know, she wasn't out there all the time. So when it was time for her to get out there in the HBO, I mean, that's why it was, I think at the time, it was the biggest selling HBO concert out. So, yeah, so I really feel like it was before its time.
T?
Absolutely. I mean, I've even felt like it then, like right when it was first coming out, just grown up's not the word, but that's just how it felt. Like it was just a different level of creativity, you know, with her and Jimmy and Terry and um yeah, I mean I could still listen to stuff today and still want to dance to it.
You both mentioned before that, you know, especially on that tour, and I know it was before that too with the Janet tour, but like, yeah, you guys were literally a family by this point. Do you think that played a part in how well and the magic you guys were creating? And Rex, I wanted to ask you, are you still in touch with some of the band members that were, or the band in general that was part of that Velvet Rope tour, like in 2022?
Yeah, we still, in fact, they still call me all the time. You know, I hear from all of them. Not so much the singers, I haven't heard from them, but I know one of them went out with Pink and Tina Turner and a bunch of other people. And the other one, I don't know, she got a record deal. She got a record deal. But yeah, I'm still in touch with them. And I think, I mean, we still play together every once in a while. A few of them have moved away from LA to Atlanta. And through the years, I've run into them, but it's amazing. We still hear, we always talk about it because we like being that group, you know, and people tell them it was one of the best concerts they've ever seen. So they call me to tell me, hey, you know, people are still talking about that show, you know. So I just feel again honored to be a part of that. Yeah. Plus it was, I mean, I don't know if you know, it was Emmy nominated.
Right.
Yeah. So that was a great thing too.
Yeah.
Because I actually went to the Emmy Awards to, you know, as a nominee. So
Yeah, that's cool.
That's amazing. T, how do you feel about just, again, like that, the family vibe and how it translated for the fans and what you guys were creating?
What was the original question?
Basically that, like, you know, like because you guys were so tight, especially, you know, with the four girls, like you know, you guys had already toured together forever, and then just the magic, because it like you felt magic, right? Like, you know, this, you felt magic. Yeah.
Yeah, it was and I think it really shows, and I think that's probably the one thing that people love so much about it is because I mean, again, Kelly and Nikki were my roommates. Shawnette lived like a mile down the street. You know what I'm saying? So we were like already like this, a group. And there's just something about having that connection on stage that no matter what mood you're in, no matter what's going on, it's like, you know, that there's this camaraderie, that there's this brotherhood, sisterhood, family vibe. And there's just nothing better than performing with it. And the thing is, the audience, they may not understand why, but they get that feeling right off the stage. It like reverberates out into the crowd, and I think they feel the love between us all. They feel the friendships and the family vibe, and we feel it on stage. Yeah, I've talked about this before. It's like, you know, we have to look at each other, and there's just something about, like, especially when everything's going great, it's just like you look over, you know, like if you're supposed to look at each other, like, yeah, we're killing it, right? And it's like you're just kind of putting that out there. And even there's times when we weren't happy with each other, we looked like, I'm still giving. And then it was like a competition of like, I want to give more energy out to the audience because I'm mad at you right now. But it was this, you know, and that's just what happens in families. You know, it's not always, you know, coming up daisies. But at the same time, I just think, and even the band, like when we would turn around, you know, I'd make eye contact with Rex or Little John, like we were all just kind of like this with, and I think that's important, right? When you're players, whether you're acting on stage, whether you're singing, it's like it's nice to know that you're all kind of watching each other and you're vibing off of each other. And we're vibing off of drum solos and keyboard solos and guitar solos, and they're vibing off of dance solos. And it's just like, it really was like this uplifting and really supportive group that were all together on stage. And I really think more than anything at all that that's what the audience felt.
Just a couple more questions before we wrap up. But Rex, I wanted to ask you, for the fans that are watching right now, what do you want them to know about Janet Jackson?
Oh, boy, she's great. She's a sweetest person. And, you know, I can't say, I mean, she's just a really warm person. And now that she's a mother too, she's changed in that motherhood, because she used to take my son when he was small. But when, you know, she's just a good, warm-hearted person that loves her fans.
Yeah.
I mean, really loves her fans. I mean, I've been around her, and she invites them in. You know, that means a lot to her. So artists like that, you know, are really special in a way, because they're in tune with what the fans want, and that's why they have the longevity. That's why they can keep going until, you know, they can't. So yeah, she's a dream person to work with.
And what message would you have for the fans that you want to put out on this 25th anniversary of Velvet Rope? Because so many, again, people, like, if you go on Twitter, you go on Instagram, like, this 25th anniversary means so much to so many people, including the fans, obviously, because it was life-changing for them for whatever reason, and seeing the tour was life-changing. So what message would you want to put out to the fans?
You know, I just want them to know that, you know, whatever they're doing in life, like if they're a musician, dancer, entertainer, you know, just fulfill your dream. I mean, we did something magical then, and we did, you know, I'm still doing it as a living, but just to take their talent and just take it to that level, you know, if they want to, and you know, and just be glad that, you know, that they've got that gift, you know. So just like to encourage them, you know, and hopefully the Velvet Rope is even just one concert that can really encourage these younger musicians, entertainers, dancers to just fulfill their dreams.
And Tina, what do you want the fans to know about Rex Salas?
Oh, he's awful to work with, and he's a pain in the butt. They need to know that he's he was the backbone of a lot of what they saw and felt, and maybe they didn't know because he was in the background. You know, the band's all in black against black, and we were always, you know, we were like the spoiled children going, look at me, look at me, look at me. And, you know, the role he played isn't, as we've discussed this whole time, isn't something that anyone can just step into, right? It's more than just being able to wrangle your band. It's more than just, hey, I heard the song, you know, on my earphone, so I'm going to copy it. There's just something special about what Rex brought to the project, and everyone needs to know his name. That's what.
Amazing. And I'll actually, last question for both of you. Tina, I'll start with Tina. What does it mean for you to see Rex in person for like the first time in 20 years? Like, how has it felt doing this interview that we just did with Rex?
It's like no time has gone by other than, I don't know how he did it, but he's like even more handsome. I don't know if it's the haircut. Rex used to have long hair.
I remember that on the Janet tour.
Yeah. He looks younger today, and you look fantastic. Like, I really wish, like I say this every week, I just want to come through and like hug you. Like, it's been way too long. So I hope I get to see you soon so we can get a hug.
Yes.
And Rex, what's it like for you to reconnect with Tina?
Oh, it's great. I mean, she's family. And, you know, when I see her, because I remember even trying to work on some music with her when she was trying to do some singing.
That's right.
Yeah. So I mean, there's just this connection and just love just all the way around. I mean, I think Tina's such a talent, and it shows in all the people she's worked with, you know. And I just hope that you know, people can see her like as somebody to look up to and to really pattern themselves and try to, you know, do the things that she's done. Yeah. But it's great to see her as always. And as you can see, she can get in touch with me at the drop of a dime. Everybody says, "Oh, you're hard to get in touch with." See, Tina.
I was like, oh, I do have Rex's number. Oh, you get new phones, and I always do something wrong with the whole contact thing. I do have Rex's number, and then you called me, like hit me back right away. I was like, yes.
That's amazing. Well, Rex, just on behalf of the fans, like it's such an honor, like I said off the top, to have you on the show and to be able to tell you in person, like what you meant to us as fans who were fortunate enough to watch those tours and to be a part of it, and knowing that you brought the musical power to us. And I just want to thank you on behalf of the fans, because as I've said to T so many times, like it wouldn't be the same if you weren't there. And so thank you for everything you did and for the amazing band members that you had. And we're just so grateful that you did that for Janet.
Oh, you're welcome, Kelly. And thank you, fans out there.
So thanks so much for watching. And again, Rex, people can follow you on Instagram. I think you do have an Instagram, or is there? Yeah. People can find you there.
Instagram, yeah.
Perfect. So yeah, check out Rex on his Instagram at the Rex Method.